Hi, and welcome to Just Trying Dad. I've got to hit record on the video and the mic and everything just right to get them synced, so hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Trying Dad. Chedodogu here, and I'm going to take a break for a bit. So let's start out with that. Take a break, get back to life, get back to parenting, get back to work and all this stuff. But it's been fun doing the solo episodes. It's been fun recording for almost 3 months straight, thinking up content, scripting, and doing all this stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed just using my voice and getting the word out there. And the good thing about these solo episodes is they're not time specific. They don't expire. They're relevant today, 10 years from now. You take from it what you need. So hopefully, if you have any feedback, if you have any, words of advice, any things we can do differently, any things we can tackle on future episodes, be sure to drop me a link. Always open to feedback and to chat about this stuff. So now that's out the way, break's coming, looking forward to summer and hanging out with my kids, pool, dance, travel, all the fun stuff that we like to do. So hopefully you're doing something nice and relaxing too, and let's get into it. So today's episode, and I kind of wanted to tackle the thing I like to call navigating different parenting styles. And to introduce this a bit, this kind of is something that my wife and I struggle with all the time, where because of different things, because of how we grew up, because of who we are, because of we're different people, we have different parenting styles, and you tend to clash sometimes. I think I can see that. You tend to clash and disagree on how to handle different situations with the kids based on that. And so it is just taking that situation, understanding the different parenting styles, and sometimes you don't understand it because you think it should be a certain way. And so this episode is just kind of to give, from my personal experience, a few things that have helped in navigating different parenting styles in your marriage, in your friendships, in whatever kind of co-parenting situations you have going on. And my take is that you there's no shortage of research or articles out there that show the unofficial or the official parenting styles. I think that there are like 4 parenting styles officially, and then maybe 2 or 3 unofficial ones, which I think in an earlier episode I tend to kind of resonate with one of the unofficial ones, helicopter. No spoilers there. But parenting is kind of this all-encompassing, all-day, never-ending journey. And even within a day, even within your parenting life cycle, you can shift between these parenting styles. Yes, you may identify with one or more of the parenting styles, but you can tend to shift between. So, when you have a lot of energy and the day is fresh and the day is young, you might be as involved and as understanding and patient, and then shorter fuse as you start to get hangry. The time of the work you've done or the meetings have kind of piled on, and all the stuff tends to get to you. So there's definitely opportunities to move through each one of these styles in each one of these days. But I think what's more sustainable is being able to evolve your parenting style and really make it an extension of who you are. So we'll talk about them, and I think there's no better way to kind of go into it and talk about the parenting styles. So I spoke about the official and the unofficial ones Um, and when you talk of official, you talk about things like the authoritarian. I mean, kind of sounds self-explanatory, but we'll go over it. Authoritarian is is unfortunately one I'm very familiar with. Uh, Growing up where I grew up, kids were to be seen and not to be heard from, and there was this strict mentality around how to raise kids and what you should be doing, and it takes a village, and the village and the neighborhood could definitely discipline you, and it didn't necessarily always bode well for self-esteem. It didn't necessarily bode well for self-expression. It didn't necessarily bode well for creativity. It was, this is the line. There's this one good kid. There's the example. Follow that kid. If you are outside of the line, if you're an outlier, you get smacked back in line. Um, and that that has its yeah. I think it's more harmful for the authoritarian as well as much as it is for the child, because you're dealing with, you're yelling, you're punishing, you're constantly enforcing, and you're not enjoying the journey, and you're not parenting. You're law enforcement at that point in time, and that's not fun for anybody. Outside of the damaging effect, and the knock on effects it has for the child in the future and who they become. I think there's definitely one that we should shift away from. Um, Now this doesn't sound very different, but the next one is authoritative. And from what I gather here, authoritative is an offshoot of authoritarian, but instead of um, just demanding loyalty, demanding be in line, there's a discussion with the child around why these are the rules, why these are the breaks, why, and then there's an opportunity for them to provide feedback. It might not change the outcome, but at the end of the day, they are involved in understanding, and their voice is heard in the understanding and the creation of the rules and the groundwork, and just how things work. So it's not just do as I say, it is do this because of these are the underlying consequences that we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid this and that, and it's a lot more understanding. It's a lot better. I think you get a lot more involvement from the kids and a lot more mutual respect, um, and you know that tends to show some form of of creativity, self-expression. The kids get to use their voice. They tend to be able to you know express themselves, versus just being shut down and being able to not do what they have to do. Permissive parenting is the next one, and that's the polar opposite um, of authoritarian. And permissive parents want their children to be their best friends, and they want them to kind of, um, just free range, not free range, but kind of have the ability to do almost what they want. Um, and there are guardrails there, but it's almost like if you want the child to for them to decide these things. So at the end of the day, there's definitely a balance, and there's definitely a shift. So like I said, there's opportunities for each one of these styles, but some are better than others. Um, One of the other ones that kind of I mean, I guess it doesn't take much talking about it, um, but it is the final one that's the one on the official list, and that's uninvolved or neglectful parenting style. And this one's just it's what it is. It's your hands off. You don't really care. You're not quite there, and you don't care to be. You just let them do what they want to do, and and you're absent. I think that's self-explanatory. Um, And in going through all that, like there's definitely an affinity, and I guess in reading through that and just kind of thinking about it and thinking of my style and thinking of my experience, um, there's definitely some of the authoritarian that resonates with me, um, and there's definitely some of the um, authoritative that I can see, and I think I actually resonates with my wife. And I think there's a strive to become more of the authoritative than the authoritarian. And these are the things that I try and work on and evolve past doing. Before I jump into that and kind of like get ahead of myself, I'd talk you through some of the unofficial ones, and most of them don't necessarily need um, much. I mean, there's helicopter, and I think I've gone over helicopter. Spoiler alert! In at length, but I'll do it again, and that's just basically an official style that came to prominence in recent years. Um, but it's it's all about being super involved. I think I feel like it's born out of fear, anxiety, shame, and everything else that's bad, and you want to kind of go the extra mile and over rotate towards wanting to protect your kids and keep them happy, um, and keep them away from everything bad, and just make sure that that you're overly involved in their lives. You know their friends' names. You know everything. You are all-star parent, and it is exhausting. Uh, it takes a toll on you, and it also takes a negative toll on the kids from time to time because um, they don't have any freedom of choice, and not because you're being authoritative, but because authoritarian, excuse me, but because you are not necessarily giving them the opportunity to make their choices, and you're not helping them build resilience, and you're not helping them experience the real world. You're not going to be there forever in the real world. um, you're not going to fight every battle for them. You're not going to deal with every parent a friendship situation or every school altercations. They should learn to deal with certain things on their own. They should learn to handle things on their own. So I'm actually officially dialing back, and with the help of therapy and talking to and all and the things I will mention here, I've been able to kind of see how helicopter parenting my skills um, done help them, and see how to you know evolve that from that blend of helicopter, authoritarian, and authoritative, and then see if we can in that Venn diagram be in that sweet spot of just authoritative, um, and give them the freedom, give them the yardstick to learn their lessons and make their mistakes. Um, there's also free range parenting, which is an unofficial one, which kind of sounds like I mean, it sounds like you're raising chickens, um, but I think it's the same principle where it's like you set the ground rules, and it's an offshoot of permissive parenting. Give them plenty of guidance, but also let them experience um, the world. Let them have their own experiences, and do their own things as they're be able to kind of handle situations, see where they need you, see where they don't need you, but at the end of the day, they are okay to explore the world. They're okay once they're ready to go out, be on their own, walk to the school bus on their own, as much as that flares your anxiety in this day and age. But yes, walk to the school bus on their own and handle situations, be self-starters, come back and just be able to do their own thing, because at the end of the day you're building that buy-in, you're building that it is your life, and you have to take ownership of it from early, and that's important to do. It's I mean, yeah, depending on the age of your kids, it can be stressful, but you want to be able to just give them that leeway, that opportunity to grow and to learn, and find out what they like and find out what they don't like, and really just interpret the world in their own way and their own lens. The final one is something that might hit home, and final unofficial one, and that's attachment parenting. And this this is very, very interesting to me because it's multifaceted, right? So it is essentially coined by a pediatrician, but it refers to being both physically and emotionally in tune with your child from the moment of their birth. And so it kind of weaves in breastfeeding, um, co-sleeping, all these things that kind of start the journey of parenting, and then see how they continue and extrapolate throughout the child's life and things like that. So, interesting story about breastfeeding. As a dad, I mean, as much as you want that opportunity for the mom to breastfeed, and to do that, and that is their choice. Um, there's the opportunity to kind of feel left out and disconnected. And so from time to time, it's like, as much as I enjoyed my kids breastfeeding, and saving money that came from them breastfeeding and getting that free food, um, I found myself on the back foot, in terms of maintaining and making connections with them, and hence I guess it makes sense now why I was overcompensating, being a helicopter, being authoritative or authoritarian, um, because it just felt like my voice wasn't being heard, and I just needed to differentiate myself in a certain way and just insert myself in the chat, um, outside of the 4 or 5 hours a day that they got to kind of breastfeed and just hang out with mom and just be connected and attached to her hip. But those type of things, in to get back to attachment parenting, it does affect you know the bonding, the growing, um, because um, as much as it creates a secure bond and a secure um, connection with the child, the mother, the parent, the baby, um, it does take a toll in the sense that it sets the tone for what the child can come to expect as the parenting style. And so it really does catch you where you're dealing with a situation where kids are constantly co-sleeping, um, because that's the tone that was set, or that's the tone that was that was done from early, or a situation where it's now up to the kid to decide when they want to stop breastfeeding, versus you kind of taking the rein and saying, I'm ready for you to move on to something else. So you have a 4 to 5 year old saying, I still want to continue because this is our form of connection, and this is my form of therapy, and my form of catharsis. And it just is one of those situations where you want to be able to find a balance, and not quite have them way too attached that there's that failure to launch. So as you can tell, there's no right or wrong. It is a a balance. It is something that really tends to just you know be a spectrum, and you have to find the right one that works for you. And bringing it back to kind of the balance and the blend, I tend to like authoritative parenting, um, because I, I think it is the best. It puts the interest of the child first, um, and it shows kind of respect for the child, as well as attention to social norms. So it it's always good to be able to involve the children in what's going on, even if they don't necessarily have the say or can sway the situation. It's good to kind of talk them through, and that's something I didn't quite always understand. Um, I mentioned growing up, where I grew up, and the issues I have with parenting specific to me. Um, I feel like it is. I can't quite pin it down. There's some days I have the energy, and you know I'm helicopter. I'm you know authoritarian. But there's some days I just go back to my base nature of authoritative, and it baffles me sometimes, and so and those are things that have caused clashes even within my marriage and with me and my wife, because she of course has her own struggles, but is, consistently or a little bit more consistent than I am, in the authoritarian side, right? And it is something where, because of that consistency, right, the kids pick up on that, and it's kind of hard for me to shake those bad habits that I've been able to kind of ingrain in them. So, take for instance, the best example is, we're trying to do some. No, the best example is probably, with co-sleeping and sleeping in bedtime. Um, I could put the kids to bed, put them away, and go back to my room, fall asleep, and maybe within 2 or 3 hours, one of them, one or both of them are up and ready to kind of, yeah, okay, this your bed is better than ours. We're gonna sleep here. We like this place better, um, and I can choose to involve my wife or choose to try and handle it myself. And usually, what would happen to handling myself would mean having to carry them back to the bed and then go stay with them whilst they sleep. Um, but for my wife, handle if I involve her, all that she has to do is wake up, look at them, and say, "Hey guys, go back to your room and just you know, go back to your room," and they will go back to their room. But if I tried the same, go back to your room, um, it would be all, you know, tears and why and come with me. We want you, and So it's just learning to navigate that and being able to kind of see how, like, sometimes you've done things and you're on the back foot, but I feel like there's ways in which you can break that, and with teamwork and with partnership. So whenever that stuff happens now, I tend to involve her. I'm like, and as much as I don't want to wake her up, I'm like, hey, can you help me talk to them, and can we talk to them together so they can go back to their beds calmer and have a much higher probability of falling back asleep. Um, and so that's kind of really been cool to do, and it's like only through therapy, counseling, and just talking through it, and then being able to kind of calm down and dial it back. So um, usually it would be, I try what my wife does, and it was like, it doesn't work, and then I yell, and then it really doesn't work. And so um, now it's just being able to kind of say, okay, yes, we keep a consistent message, we do it together, and then sometimes if she's just really tired, I just take them back, and suffer through it that way. But it's all about just being able to find the sweet spot and find the blend, because like you say, like you might have different styles in different times of days and different opportunities to show different things, but it is always good to be able to kind of realize that over the course of your parenting journey, um, you will evolve, you will change, and you can change, and you can talk to kids in the way that they will hear you, and they will still feel respected and loved, whilst you're, you know, trying to keep them safe, not get your way, but trying to keep them safe. I think once you phrase it always that way, as you're trying to keep them safe, um, all bets are off, and it's a lot more palatable for them versus, um, do this. Yeah, it's my way or the highway. Um, yeah. So I did mention the real reason. So we've talked about the styles. We talked about the official and unofficial styles. Um, there's and one of the ways that you can see is and to give you a bit of visualization, I did mention that I'm kind of leaning on the official side to the authoritarian, um, and my wife is leaning to the, authoritative, and how you get to see how parenting styles conflict, right? So in this situation, in our current situation, it's, yeah, we definitely disagree on how much affection, to give. Sometimes it's too much, and so they've got to find the balance, um, and we argue over, punishments, discipline styles, what's too severe, um, is smacking good or is smacking not? allowed in this house, and yeah, we also tend to disagree on rewards. And from what I can tell is we're not always on, one or the other side. There's times when she's like, "Oh, the kids don't deserve this," and I'm like, "The kids do deserve this," because I'm almost trying to, you know, I don't know, buy my way back into something, or trying to kind of get in their good graces or things like that. And so it's not always that I'm authoritarian and she's authoritative. I think it kind of shifts and flips between. Like I said, it's not clean. It's not clean lines ever. It's just the opportunity to realize that there's going to be conflict. There's going to be differences. But even within conflict and differences, there's still the opportunity to keep a consistent message, because there's nothing worse than conflict in your styles showing divergence or different mess or conflicting message, confusing the kids. Um, so they could also, I mean, you could also be dealing with a situation where you have uh, an authoritative parent and a permissive parent, and then same thing. You disagree on affection, love. You disagree on enforcement and how to enforce um, the rules strongly or not enforce the rules at all, because one person is laissez-faire, the other person is a lot more involved, and a lot more kind of like, let's walk you through the decisions, this is what you did. So yeah, and through each one of these things you can have different permutations or combinations of the different parenting styles clashing. Permissive can clash with uninvolved. Authoritarian can clash with permissive. um, Authoritative can clash with uninvolved. And I think the worst one you can ever kind of find yourself with is if you have a clash with an uninvolved parent, because at the end of the day, um, the less than the bare minimum is kind of their their jam. So it's like you're trying to at least up the effort or be as involved in a way, and they're just like, it is what it is. So it's definitely a challenge, um, but it is definitely something that differences in parenting styles are just one point of parenting conflict. Um, so you just have to understand that that's not the only conflict you could have. It could be cultural values, it could be beliefs, it could be social norms, it could be political views, it could be all these things that are causing the differences. The differences. Um, and so we just have to be able to kind of understand our partners and understand who we're with, and still be able to kind of put forward a consistent message. Because one thing kids are is they are sharks, and they smell blood in the water, and they smell dissent, and they know when things are not harmonious, and they play up on that. um, and so it's always good to be able to, even within situations where um, there is disagreement, keep it in in I guess in the parental discussions versus out there for the kids to see, um, so that way they don't get confused as to what it is that is required, what it is they have to do, or what it is that is necessary. So one parent is not telling them you can't do this, and the other saying you can, and so it's just different ways of doing it. So finally, for tips on getting along with and really navigating um, different parenting styles. I mean, we all know this, that parenting can be exhausting. You're not always going to disagree. You're not always going to agree. And it's okay to feel, angry, misunderstood. Um, but I think one thing is to, um, like I said, present a united front, um, because you don't want uh, discord or disunity to lead to any behavioral or learning issues from the children. So a few things you can try, a few strategies you can try is explore how your parenting style complement each other. For instance, um, a permissive parent can help an authoritarian parent to be more affectionate, Um, Meanwhile, an authoritarian parent may support a permissive parent in setting boundaries. So you kind of learn how um, you can complement each other and you can work with each other on things that are maybe you're not as strong at. So, I mean, parenting is give and take, it is a partnership in the realest form. And you have to be able to understand that there's things I'm strong at, and there's things that she's strong at, and there's talks that I'm better at. That my wife's like, go talk to the kids about this, or the talks that she's better at. And then just realize that, okay, at the end of the day, we need to be able to do it together, but not always be the mouthpieces, and give leeway to the parent that you think is best at delivering a certain situation. And even if they don't deliver it the best way, it's still being able to give them the opportunity to have that say, and then debrief and discuss in the background. Um, Developing a set. Next one is developing a set family rules which everyone can agree on. It basically involving the kids on the in the rules, so that you know how they are to be disciplined. Um, Two parents might never agree on spanking, um, but um, deciding that kids may lose privileges if certain things are not done in a certain way as a penalty is probably a good idea. So set the ground rules, and know that this is where to go, so the kids know to expect it, and you know that these are your parameters. These are the tools you have in your kit to get them to fall in line. Um, don't underestimate one another. You must. I mean, I keep beating this to death, and it's you have to create to present a united front. Um, Unless a child is in danger, um, such as from one or the other parent, um, or getting injured and things like that, or getting hurt or getting harmed in any way, shape or form, emotionally, physically, um, just keep a united front. And it's best to discuss conflict later, like I said, in the background, versus where in the foreground where the kids can see it. Support your the parent decision, and you know give them feedback on ways that we can probably have done things differently. My wife does it all the time. It's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done that, and maybe you should try this, and that. Maybe try a subtler approach, and this, and so it goes a long way because it helps me realize and constantly reevaluate my parenting style. Maybe not in front of the kids because I do what I have to do to shut a situation down, but to consistently present a more softer approach or more affectionate approach um, the next time that situation arises, because the situation will arise and it's not a one-off. Um, yeah, I think finally it's learning about parenting together, because the realization is nobody is a perfect parent. You're constantly going to be learning, you're constantly going to be reading and looking through resources and things, and looking at support groups and joining and talking to other parents and seeing how they parent differently. Um, so it's all about trusting each other, learning from each other, learning with each other, and growing, and most importantly, um, evolving, because um, the best interest of the child is what is really at stake. Um, Being able to do your best so that they grow up and they're unaffected by things that you did in a negative way. And the sooner you understand that there's no award for the best parent, the best mom, the best dad, none will be given. It's a thankless job, but all you can be and all you can strive to be is the best parent for your child. The easier it will become. So, that's been an episode of Just Trying Dad, navigating different parenting styles. Still struggling with it, but I'm officially no longer a helicopter. So, that's been it. Taking a long break. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Just Trying Dad. Please be sure to spread the word, tell a friend, and you can find us wherever podcasts can be found, on Spotify or Google Podcasts, and keep having the conversations, and we'll see you soon.